Have you ever really stopped to think about where your energy comes from? I mean, really comes from. Not the coffee, not the energy drink, but on a deep, microscopic level. Well, today we are diving right into your cells to find your body's power plants and really understand the fuel that keeps you, well, you.
Think about it for a second. You go for a jog, maybe just run up a flight of stairs, and boom, your body just kicks into high gear. Your heart is thumping, you're gasping for air. Why? What's actually going on? The answer, it turns out, isn't just in your lungs or your heart. It's happening inside billions and billions of your individual cells.
And check this out. This simple little experiment holds a massive clue. This blue liquid, it's called bromothal blue, or BTB, and it turns yellow when it comes into contact with carbon dioxide. The faster it changes, the more CO2 is there. This is literally a visual of a waste product your body is pumping out, and it's the key to unlocking this whole mystery.
Okay, so to solve this, we have to meet the single most important molecule when it comes to energy in your entire body. Meet ATP, adenosine triphosphate. This is it. This is the good stuff. The easiest way to think about it is like cash for your cells. You want to flex a muscle? That'll cost you some ATP. You need to build a new protein or fire off a neuron in your brain? You got to pay the toll with ATP. It is the universal power source for pretty much everything that happens in there.
And that is not an exaggeration. We're talking every single living thing. Plants, animals, fungi, bacteria, all life as we know it is running on this exact same tiny, rechargeable battery. So yeah, the process of making it is kind of a big deal in biology. So, where's the factory? Where does all this magic happen? It happens inside these tiny little structures called mitochondria. You have got thousands of them in your cells, especially in cells that need a lot of energy, like your muscles. And this description is perfect. They are like tiny electrochemical batteries, taking the fuel from the food you eat and the oxygen you breathe and using it all to recharge your ATP. But here's the thing, making ATP isn't just one simple step. Oh no, it's a highly efficient, three-stage cellular assembly line. So let's take a quick tour of the factory floor. All right, here's our roadmap for the tour. We're going to start with glycolysis. Then we'll move into the citric acid cycle, and we'll finish with the grand finale, the electron transport chain. We'll just look at what goes in and what comes out for each stage. Simple as that. Okay, first up, glycolysis. Now this stage actually happens outside the mitochondria, just in the main soupy part of the cell called the cytoplasm. This is the entry point. We take one molecule of glucose, sugar from your food, and we basically just split it right in half. That creates two smaller molecules called pyruvate. Next, those two pyruvate molecules, they get escorted into the mitochondria for stage 2, the citric acid cycle. You might also know it as the Krebs cycle. Now, its main job isn't really to make a bunch of ATP directly. Its real purpose is to load up these special molecules, NADH and FADH2, with high-energy electrons. Think of them as little energy shuttle buses, just getting filled up with fuel.
And this, my friends, is where those little energy shuttle buses drop off their precious cargo. The electron transport chain is this incredible series of proteins, like tiny molecular motors, all embedded in the wall of the mitochondria. They take those high-energy electrons from our shuttle buses and use their energy to churn out a massive, massive amount of ATP. This is the main event. This is where the real magic happens.
So after all that, after splitting glucose, running it through a cycle, and firing up these amazing molecular motors, what's the actual payoff? I mean, how much energy do we really get from just one single molecule of glucose? 38. From one tiny molecule of sugar, this beautiful, intricate process can generate a maximum of 38 molecules of ATP. That is just a phenomenal return on investment. And if you look at this table, you can see exactly where it all comes from. You can see the first two stages, they chip in a little bit of ATP directly. But look at that last column. Oxidative phosphorylation. That's the electron transport chain cashing in all those shuttle buses for a whopping 34 ATP. It's the undisputed powerhouse of the cell. Now, quick little asterisk here. In the real world, that 38 is a theoretical maximum. Our cells are super busy places, right? Sometimes a little bit of that energy gets spent on other jobs, like moving molecules around. So the actual real-world yield is usually a little lower, somewhere between 36 and 38. Still, incredibly efficient. But what's really cool is that your cells are smart. They don't just run this whole assembly line at full blast 24/7. Can you imagine how wasteful that would be? No. Instead, they have this really sophisticated control system. It's kind of like a thermostat for making energy. And it's all based on simple supply and demand. When the cell is flush with ATP, when it's got plenty of energy, the whole process slows down. But when that energy gets used up, leaving behind a bunch of ADP, which is like the uncharged battery, the whole factory floor ramps up production to meet the demand. It's a perfect little feedback loop. So how does it do this? Well, it uses specific molecules called enzymes that act like on-off switches. One of the master regulators is an enzyme way back in stage 1, in glycolysis. It's called phosphofructokinase. It is super sensitive to how much ATP is floating around. If ATP levels are high, it gets shut down, putting the brakes on the entire assembly line right at the very beginning. So clever. Okay, we have gone deep into the microscopic world. We've talked molecules and mitochondria and enzymes. Now, let's zoom all the way back out and finally connect all of these dots back to where we started.
And here we are, back at the big question. Why does this happen when you push your body? Now that we know about the cellular power plant, we can put the whole story together.
So here it is. When you exercise, your muscle cells start burning through their ATP stores like crazy. So to make more, they crank up cellular respiration. But remember, that whole process needs a constant supply of oxygen. So you start breathing faster to pull more oxygen into your lungs. Your heart beats faster to pump that oxygen-rich blood out to your muscles. And the byproduct of all that furious energy production? Carbon dioxide, a lot of it, which you then have to breathe out. And that is why the blue BTB solution changes color so much faster after you exercise. You are literally breathing out the exhaust from your cellular power plants working overtime.
Everything we've talked about today, this entire incredible, efficient system, is aerobic respiration. It all depends on oxygen. Which leaves us with one last, really fascinating question. What happens when you push yourself so hard that your heart and lungs just can't deliver oxygen fast enough? What do your cells do then? Well, that's a story for another time.